I want to be very clear. As a victim, as a former employee of Sean Combs, I do not feel safe. I am extremely traumatized. I do not know where to go.
She wasn't famous, but she may hold the truth they tried to bury. Jordan Atkinson was never a celebrity. She didn't perform on stage. She didn't walk red carpets. She wasn't a part of the glitz and headlines that followed Sean Diddy Combs throughout his decades-long career. She was a chef, a quiet figure in the background, trusted to prepare private meals, serve guests at lavish estates, and move unnoticed through the corridors of power. But today, she is no longer silent. After years of holding back what she says are painful truths, Jordan has decided to speak, and what she claims to know about the man she once served is sending shockwaves through the public. In the aftermath of a federal trial, where Diddy was acquitted of some of the most serious sex trafficking charges, but found guilty on others, Jordan took to Instagram with a message that immediately went viral. "I do not feel safe. I am extremely traumatized. I don't know where to go from here." In her emotional video and follow-up posts, she alleged that Diddy assaulted her in 2008 at his New Jersey estate. She claimed to have witnessed his abuse towards singer Cassie Ventura years before Cassie filed her own lawsuit, and she revealed that she was recently subpoenaed to testify in his federal case, but ultimately didn't take the stand because the fear and the trauma were still too overwhelming. She also raised serious allegations about being contacted by Diddy's legal team, an offer she interpreted as possible witness tampering. And she wrote directly to Judge Arun Subramanian, urging the court to keep Diddy in custody, claiming she fears retaliation. This documentary investigates her story from the beginning, from her early years working in Diddy's home to the night she says everything changed, to her most recent and most emotional public appeal. What happened behind the walls of the mansions? What did she witness that others ignored? And why did she decide to come forward now? This is the untold story of Jordan Atkinson, Diddy's former chef, and the accusations that have shaken the legacy of one of music's most powerful men. If stories like this matter to you, stories that cut through the headlines and reveal the human cost behind celebrity power, make sure to subscribe to Viral Vanity. We tell the stories others are too afraid to touch. 2008, the year everything changed. Jordan Atkinson had always felt that fear was part of the job, something unspoken that came with working in a high-profile, high-stakes environment. But in 2008, that fear turned personal. That was the year she says it happened. The year she says Sean Diddy Combs assaulted her at his New Jersey estate. She hasn't publicly shared every detail of the incident. She hasn't sat down for a televised interview, and in many ways, she still speaks like someone protecting herself, not just from the public, but from the memory. What we do know is this. It was 2008. She was alone in the house with Diddy, and something went very, very wrong. In her words, she was assaulted, not threatened, not yelled at, assaulted. She didn't go to the police. She didn't go to the press. She didn't even tell many of the people in her life. She kept working. She kept cooking, and inside she kept quiet, because she didn't feel safe. "I stayed silent because I thought we'd both be dead if I didn't." Those words, delivered almost 2 decades later, cut through the noise of media coverage and legal jargon. She wasn't looking for attention. She wasn't building a case. She was living with something she thought no one would believe anyway. In her mind, there was no upside to speaking out. Diddy was too rich, too powerful, too protected. And she was just the help. The imbalance was too great. So she did what many people do when they're traumatized by someone in power. She buried it. She went back to work. She returned to the kitchen. She stayed on the payroll. And she tried, day by day, to forget what happened. But she never really could. Because everything changed after that night. The silence grew heavier. The job felt colder. And when she looked around the house, at the other staff, at Cassie, at the world continuing on, she started to see things differently. She started to notice what wasn't being said, the way people walked on eggshells, the way fear lingered in certain hallways, the way Cassie's smile never quite reached her eyes. Jordan began to realize she wasn't the only one holding something in, and though she wouldn't say it out loud for another 17 years, that was the moment she knew this wasn't just a job anymore. This was survival. The letter that could shake a legacy. She didn't speak in court. She didn't sit on the witness stand. But on July 4th, 2025, Jordan Atkinson's voice finally entered the legal record. Not through testimony, but through a letter. The morning after her emotional Instagram video went viral, Jordan took pen to paper and wrote directly to the man who now held the power to decide Sean Diddy Combs' future, U.S. District Judge Arun Subramanian. She wasn't filing an affidavit. She wasn't requesting legal protections. She was writing as a woman, one who had been silent for too long. "I do not feel safe," she began. "This past year and a half has been traumatizing. I fear for my safety upon his release." The letter wasn't long, but it didn't need to be. In just a few paragraphs, Jordan did what prosecutors, lawyers, and cross-examinations couldn't. She made it personal. She described her alleged assault in 2008. She described the trauma she still carries. She described the panic she felt when federal agents arrived with a subpoena. She described the message she interpreted as witness tampering from Diddy's legal team. And most importantly, she described her fear of what could happen if he were released before sentencing. The letter was submitted to the court alongside a photo of her subpoena, tangible proof that she had been a part of the case, even if the jury never heard her name. "There are others like me," she wrote, "others who saw what happened, others who are still afraid." Her words weren't dramatic. They were measured, deliberate, and exhausted. She wasn't trying to sway public opinion. She was trying to protect herself and anyone else who had once stayed quiet. What made the letter so powerful wasn't just its content, it was its timing. Diddy had just been found guilty on 2 counts under the Mann Act. He was awaiting sentencing. His legal team had already requested bail while they prepared an appeal. And here was a former employee, a potential witness, a self-proclaimed victim, begging the court not to let him walk free. Jordan's letter didn't demand revenge. It wasn't written in anger. It was written in fear and in hope. Hope that someone in the system would hear her. Hope that even if she couldn't testify, her words could still matter. Hope that the man she once cooked for would be held accountable, not just for what the jury believed, but for what so many others had endured in silence. And in a quiet, but unmistakable way, her voice was heard. Judge Arun Subramanian denied Diddy's request for bail. He would remain in custody until sentencing, scheduled for October 2025. And just like that, for the first time since the trial began, Jordan Atkinson no longer felt invisible. She wasn't just a chef. She wasn't just the help. She was a voice the court couldn't ignore. But one question still lingered. Would her words, and those of others, be enough to shake the legacy of one of the most powerful men in music? Or was this just a pause in a story that would repeat itself again? The final course. What she really wanted to say. She never asked for this. Not the headlines, not the interviews, not the sudden wave of attention from strangers, reporters, or legal teams. Jordan Atkinson never wanted to be the story. She just wanted to survive it. She spent years trying to forget. The night in 2008, the bruises on Cassie, the tension in those halls, the fear of what might happen if she told someone what she saw. She tried to bury the guilt. Tried to convince herself it wasn't her place, that she wasn't important enough to speak up. She was just the chef. But the truth never stayed buried. It sat with her. It followed her. It changed her. And when she finally spoke, not in court, not in a public statement, but in a quiet video recorded alone, on her own phone, she wasn't just telling a story. She was reclaiming herself. "I used to serve him meals," she said. "Now I serve the truth." She never testified, but she was heard. She never stood before a jury, but she stood up to silence. And in doing so, she reminded us that the people we ignore, the ones in the background, the ones without lawyers or publicists or millions of followers, sometimes know the most, sometimes carry the heaviest truths, sometimes hold the stories that can break a legacy in half. We began this story with a question. Who was she? Why did she stay quiet for so long? And what did she finally decide to say? Now we know the answer. She was the one they didn't expect to speak. She stayed silent because she was afraid, and because the world gives people like her every reason to be. And when she finally found her voice, it wasn't for revenge, it was for closure, it was for herself, and it was for anyone else who's still afraid to speak. Her story is not a celebrity scandal. It's not gossip. It's not a trending topic. It's a truth. And truths, once spoken, don't disappear. Jordan's voice may never echo in court transcripts or legal textbooks, but it echoes here, with you, with us, and with everyone who knows what it means to survive something and still choose to speak. If you believe voices like Jordan's matter, if you believe silence should never be forced and truth should never be buried, then join us. This is Viral Vanity, where we uncover the truth behind power and amplify the voices that power tried to erase. Like, subscribe, and share this story. Because Jordan didn't speak for fame. She spoke for freedom.